This series of videos is about helping you to give up your choice and your free will, and in doing so, unlock the power to have the life that you want. So what does that mean? How am I going to do less and have less choice and less will, and have my life be in harmony, have my results be more effective, have my experience emotionally be the way I want it to be, so more positive, less negativity? How's that going to work? Okay, so let me tell you. The last couple of months of 2023, I really started to look fundamentally at the world that I live in, from a spiritual and holistic perspective, from a mathematical perspective and what science says about how many dimensions there are, how real or unreal our physical reality is, our physical experience of life, our senses. And I started to formulate an idea, which is this. We live in 3 dimensions and time, okay, as a 4th dimension. And we assume that that is the real world because we've called it that. But have you ever noticed how much your real actions and your real emotions in this 3-dimensional space and time do not necessarily produce the results you think they should? Let me say that another way. How many of you are working really hard, trying really hard, challenging yourself, and nothing really seems to be happening? So if that's you, I invite you to consider that's because you are putting your efforts in the wrong place. And in fact, it's the part of you that you are using to try and produce your efforts, like trying to use the handle of a knife to cut rather than the blade, that's producing the results, or the lack of results, the lack of change, the lack of power that you really have been experiencing perhaps your whole life. So consider it this way. Imagine that your physical body is not the realest part of you. The part that we often talk about, our higher self, our energy, our soul, our spirit. Imagine if that was more real than your physical body. And when you interact with life from that level, almost like a higher level of self, then you can actually cause more influence, more change, and you feel more calm and more empowered as a result. So let me try and give you an image which will almost be an analogy to it. Imagine you are an eagle, okay? And you're flying high above the landscape. And as you fly, you notice that you create a shadow, okay? But imagine if your shadow had just a tiny little bit of free will, enough to sometimes go, actually, I'm not going to follow you when you go off in that direction towards a really amazing place to go. I'm going to stay here where it's dark, where it's dingy, where things are not really the way I want, because that's what I think I deserve, because I have to work something out before I move on. So the shadow could actually disempower itself, and it would think it was in charge, and it wouldn't realize that it had just disconnected itself from its higher expression, from what was creating it, okay? And then when it realized that that was happening, it could catch up with the eagle itself, and the eagle would already be over that amazing, wealth-filled paradise positivity, or it may have even passed that, so the shadow would never experience what it was looking to experience. Okay? The shadow would think it was in charge of its destiny. The shadow would think that it was making the decisions and choices, but actually it's way more of a reaction than it is a creative force. Okay? So I'm suggesting that there is a part of you that when you stop having to work so hard, when you stop stressing about things, when stress and worrying doesn't make any difference, when you stop measuring who you are by how many things you've done in your 3-dimensional space in the time that you have in a day, there are some results that can show up that would almost seem magical, but actually it's simply that you're engaging with the right end of the knife, that you are empowering the eagle, not being the shadow that is underneath it. So it takes quite a lot of consideration and courage, these are 2 things that are really important, to actually then engage with the part of the body that relates to choice and free will, which is at this part of the body through here, okay? where we're always conditioned to think we need to make good choices, our choices change our future, our choices are really significant, and that it's important that we have free will, we shouldn't be controlled or manipulated by things, even though that is our day-to-day experience. And what I'm suggesting is at this level that we actually start to say, I am going to surrender my current choices, my free will. I'm going to allow those things to go to a different level of who I am. Okay? Sometimes it almost feels like I'm giving my choice to my environment or to people around me who are maybe more discerning, more enlightened, they can see more than me. That's the experience, by the way, of having a coach or a mentor. They can be at the level of your ego and they can look down and see things about your experience that you can't see. But when you allow yourself to do that, when you allow yourself to be freed up from constantly assessing your choices on some micro level, like analyzing yourself, constantly expecting your emotions or your energy levels to change just from one action down here on the ground, when you stop doing that, you start to notice things, patterns and trends that actually tell you that you're starting to elevate your consciousness. It's like raising yourself above the mountain so that when you look, you're not just looking at the face of the problem and not seeing around it, you can actually see what's on the other side. Okay? A powerful aspect of this is what I would call holistic bypassing of problems and issues. Okay? Mostly when we interact with problems and issues, we try and find a solution, a fix, or a way around those things. Okay? Actually, when you're giving your free will and your choice away from this lower version of yourself and engaging with a higher version of yourself, what you start with is, there is a solution. There is a version of me on the other side of this issue or problem. I don't have to find out how to get to be that version of me. I just need to start to project some light and some reality on that version of me. And then often you will see ways through, pathways, you'll see ways to open up what seems closed that you couldn't see from your original perspective. I believe it's part of the energy that has people go, okay, I'm going to have a cup of coffee or I'm going to have a cigarette, not that I'm condoning that, and go away, leave this problem and issue, I'll come back to it the next day. Or I'm going to go sleep and wake up in the morning and see how it looks different. Because there's a natural tendency when we step away from something or when we go to sleep to allow our consciousness, our higher self, to work on things that we've been physically trying to work out. Okay? I believe it's Albert Einstein that said that you cannot solve a problem, truly solve a problem, with the same level of energy that created it. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. So see if you can have the courage to let go of your normal choice of free will. Okay? Whether you reach out to someone like me and have them stand at that higher level, create with you what it does, what it looks like to look down from a higher perspective, to see the patterns and the trends and the opportunities that you can't see from your normal experience, to take some time to stop doing what you normally do and having the same circular conversations that don't make any difference, and then start to tune into something different. Yes, practices like meditation and yoga can help do that, but often what people do is they turn those practices into more three-dimensional, time-based things to do. When we don't have the time to do it, it's just a task, we punish ourselves if we don't do it, all of which turns it away from what it actually is, which is a creation of a higher elevated connection to self, and just turns it into another molehill, mountain, or pothole to fall into in our normal everyday life. Okay, so please reach out to me if this has sparked some kind of connection, if you have got questions about this video, if you can start to see that when you give up, you go, oh, I don't know how to do it, I give up. Actually, things start to turn out and things start to open up because you're giving up your will and your conscious choice at this level. And that may well be the beginning of what I'm talking about on a grander scale. I'd love to hear from you if you've got any questions or insights about this video.